now with this is, yeah, so okay, that one goes right in that.
Okay.
But, and the guy just moved into, it's like north, went to Sound, just like the Grand movie theaters. But you know where Sam's Club is? Sam's Club.
University. I was going to say the University in the soccer field, Sarah Lee soccer field.
It's a little north of that.
Okay, okay. How long does it take you to get there?
Today was just the first time I came around.
Oh, you just moved there?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
Currently in the house is a mattress.
The essentials, right? Okay, okay.
But when we were younger, we had the old schools for furniture. You remember how those in the 70s and 80s, they had those schools with the wire cord over them?
Yes.
They would set them around.
You have that for your end table.
Yes.
Y'all ready back there? Give me a thumbs up sign, please. Waiting on 2. One more. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim O'Neill. I'm the Forsyth County District Attorney. In the last couple of weeks, myself and law enforcement came out and explained to the public about an incident that occurred at one of our schools where a teacher was slapped twice across the face. As we all know, that video went viral. The Sheriff's Department, their investigators, my staff got together. We looked at the facts of the case. We decided about a week or so ago that we would present the facts, the videos, to a grand jury to allow them to decide what's appropriate in this case. A grand jury was convened last Monday, comprised of members of this community, and the grand jury returned true bills of indictment against the defendant, now in this case, Aquavis Hickman. Those indictments would reflect that the defendant was indicted for second-degree kidnapping of the teacher, in this case, that was captured in that video, by unlawfully confining and restraining her without her consent for the purpose of terrorizing her. The defendant was also indicted on that same bill with assault on a government official, that being the teacher, and finally communicating threats against that teacher. The threat was communicated to the teacher by this defendant, stating that he was going to kill her. The threat was made in a manner and under circumstances which would cause a reasonable person to believe that the threat was likely to be carried out, and the person threatened believed that it would in fact be carried out. The defendant was also indicted on a second bill for second-degree kidnapping by unlawfully confining and restraining another teacher over at school, by confining and restraining that teacher without his consent for the purpose of terrorizing or doing serious bodily harm to him. It's important to note that the two cases include different dates of offense. The first date, as we all know, captured on the video was April the 15th of 2024. The other count of second-degree kidnapping, the date of offense is February the 1st, 2024. That defendant was also indicted on a misdemeanor count of riot. The allegations are that the defendant did assemble with at least two other persons did assemble with at least two other persons whose names are not known, and riot by engaging in a public disturbance, kidnapping the second teacher in this case, and attempting to fight him. This disorderly and violent conduct created a clear and present danger of injury to the victim in this case. I am not going to release the names of the victims in this case. They are both employed over at Parkland High School. As we said in our first press conference, the teacher who was assaulted on video and slapped across the face has asked for and requested from the media privacy, and I hope that you will honor that request. There will come a time when we're all in court, but for now, please honor and respect that request. Sheriff Kimbrough, Chief Penn, and myself made a promise to this community that we would not tolerate any assaults on our teachers, plain and simple. I took a step further and I said many times over that I stand with law enforcement, I stand with the men and women in blue and in black that serve and protect our community. Nobody should go to work and expect to be assaulted. The heads of law enforcement in this community, Sheriff Kimbrough, Chief Penn, and myself, we stand together, and our message to our community is simple. We stand with the teachers. We will fight to protect those teachers. And if you lay a hand on a teacher and assault a teacher, you can expect that the punishment will be swift and severe. Promise made, promise kept. I'm going to ask Sheriff Kimbrough to come up and speak a little bit about some of the other problems surrounding juvenile crime and the increase that we have seen over the last couple of years. Sheriff Kimbrough.
Appreciate you, Mr. O'Neill. First of all, I want to say good afternoon to you all. I know that a lot of you are wondering the question in your mind, why are we charging, or why is he being charged as an adult? When I saw the information that was provided to me, I asked myself the question, how long do we have to go left or keep going left before we realize that we've got to get it on the right track? All of us sitting in this room owe a debt to the woman or the man that educated you, teachers. All of us in this room are who we are because of the men and women that educated us. We ask our teachers to do a lot of things. We ask them to be counselors. We ask them to be school teachers. We ask them to be referees. So how can we in good conscience allow anyone to assault them and become punching bags? I can't do that. I won't do that. A lot of people ask the questions, and I say a lot of things, and sometimes my mouth gets me in trouble. A lot of people always ask the question, are we ruining another black man's life? My question to you is this. I look at it as if you were going to a fire in a neighborhood, the fire department responds to the house that's on fire, not the house that's not on fire. They don't care about the color of the house. They care about the incident or the situation. So color never factored into my mind on this, but factored in my mind what's right as a community, what's right as the sheriff. And so when I look at this, I said to myself, at some point, we have to realize that we cannot allow, there's some things in a society that has to be sacred. It has to be. We have to protect the people that educate us. Every day I go into schools around this county. I see teachers breaking up fights. I see teachers being injured. I see deputies having to mace our children. I'm not happy with that, but I have to balance. do we sacrifice the many for the few? We can't. Have we ever asked the question, why are so many charter schools popping up? These are questions that you probably have at your table but don't want to have them publicly. Have you asked yourself, why are private schools busting through the seams now? These are conversations that you probably don't want to have publicly. We have to draw a line somewhere to realize that we have to protect our teachers. I was looking at some statistics that they gave me, my staff and police department, we work collectively together, and I was looking at the petitions that have been filed over the last several years, and I'll just share some numbers with you, and I'm sure you're going to want a copy, Mr. Hinton, so I'm going to give you my copy. When you look at the petitions that were filed, total petitions in 2020, 403, 2021, 314, 2022, 352, 2023, 353, 2024. Just since 2024, we at 126. What I'm telling you is that as a community, we've got to figure out collectively, how are we going to save our children? How and what are we going to do to address the root cause of the problems that would cause a young man to think that he could assault an adult, that think that our children can go in the classroom and curse our teachers, to go in the classroom and think that they can disrupt that. There's a root cause that is causing that. We as a community have to figure out how we're going to assemble resources to address it. But here's what I will tell you before I submit the mic to my partner in crime prevention, Chief Penn, is that until we figure that out, I stand with the district attorney that you cannot and I will not allow you assaulting our teachers. I can't do that. God rest my mother in heaven. She was a school teacher. I can't stand by that, and I will not. I'll raise up every time on that. I thank you all for being here, and again, I stand with them. Thank you. Chief.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our schools aren't a battleground, nor a boxing ring. I stand with my partners in crime fighting and protecting our teachers. Our schools must be sacred. It's a place where learning occurs. It must be safe for our teachers, faculty, and our students. That video went viral nationwide, and it put us on the map in a negative manner. I'm so glad today that the rest of the nation will also hear that we do not tolerate that in Winston-Salem and in Forsyth County. Again, schools are sacred. The very treasure of our kids learning and becoming productive citizens occurs in the schools. Do you think there was any learning going on that particular day? We owe it to our community. At one point, we owe it to our juveniles to get a hold of this juvenile crime and set our kids up for success. The sheriff gave out some stunning numbers, and I want to add to that number. Just in firearm petitions alone from 2022 to 2023, there was a 36% increase in firearms. You've heard me say this before, it's called public safety. We, as a community, have to come together to deal with juvenile violence, because juvenile violence becomes adult violence. I stand with my partners in keeping our community and our schools safe, just like we all gave an oath that we would do.
Question.
So let me, before we start taking questions, let me also explain that as this is a pending matter, neither myself nor the sheriff will be able to talk about the facts of this case. So even though we understand it's a viral video, we get it. We cannot talk about the facts of this case or the other case for which he was indicted. So Please understand that. I would also like to reiterate that I've spoken numerous times with our school superintendent, Patricia McManus. She has been kept abreast of the case and the ongoing situation. I can tell you that she stands with us, that teachers have to be protected, they have to be safe, and we are the ones that are willing to draw the line in the sand to be sure that this message gets out to the students in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system that you are not to put your hand on a teacher. Yes, ma'am. Do you have a question?
Yes. Do you know if there were any other incidents between the student and other teachers, or are we just aware of the two?
I don't know anything. I don't know anything that I can comment on as it relates to that question. I know what you're getting at, but I can't comment on that. Yes, ma'am.
How old or what grade is the student in?
If I have that information, I can let you know. Date of birth is April 1st, 2007. Yes, sir.
Has he already been indicted, or does that come in the next court appearance?
No, he's been indicted, which is what I'm trying to explain today, that we took the information, we took the case. The sheriff sent his deputies in to explain to the grand jury what had occurred over there at Parkland. The grand jury looked at the evidence, weighed it, and they came back with true bills of indictment on those crimes that I alleged when I first came out here.
And we were unable to obtain the warrants, the paperwork today. Can you spell the first and last name of the suspect?
Yes. First name is spelled Aquavis, and last name is Hickman, Hickman.
Have you had a conversation with the parents of the suspect?
No, that would not be an appropriate conversation for the prosecutor to have with the parents of a defendant.
Or detectives?
Not that I'm aware. Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to speak to his behavior prior to these incidents at school?
I'm not able to comment on that either.
Joe, what about a motive here? We heard a lot of rumors last couple of weeks about why he did what he did.
And I think if I talk about that, John, I'm going to be getting into some of the facts of the case, and I would prefer not to do that. I think the appropriate place for the case to be resolved is in a court of law.
Has he gotten in trouble outside of school?
Again, that's not something we're able to comment on. Yes, sir.
We were unable to obtain the warrants today. It's my understanding that once the indictment happens in adult court, those become available public record. Is that
Yes,
your
sir.
understanding?
Yes, sir. I think that they will be made available. Without talking about the facts of this particular case, once a person who is of juvenile age is indicted by a grand jury, although it sort of defies logic, it doesn't stay immediately in Superior Court until the case proceeds through the juvenile court, where a juvenile judge presides over the matter, advises the juvenile what has occurred, and then the case is transferred up into Superior Court. But there's still a juvenile process that we had to go through, even though the indictments were returned last week.
So that transfer has not happened?
Yes, sir.
So your office filed a petition to have Mr. Hickman tried as an adult? Or filed some sort of paperwork to have a judge declare him to be tried as an adult?
Well, what generally speaking, what happens is law enforcement draws a petition. Once the petition is drawn, prosecutor's office has the option of taking that case and presenting information to a grand jury, providing that the allegations would be capable of being transferred into Superior Court.
You know when those arrest warrants be made public?
I don't know, sir.
And did I understand you correctly, in the second incident, you were unable to know the other two suspects that may be involved, were unable to identify them, and thus
That's-
probably unable to charge?
That's what's reflected in the indictment. I can tell you that the Sheriff's Department, there's no such thing as a closed investigation. The Sheriff's Department will continue to work any possible leads and follow up as necessary. Yes, ma'am.
For clarity, this has already been through the juvenile system and it's just awaiting transfer to Superior Court?
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's in Superior Court now.
Okay.
Okay, it has been through the juvenile process. Once the grand jury returns an indictment, even though most of us would think the case is now in Superior Court, there are still some procedural issues that have to be dealt with in the juvenile court with the juvenile, to be sure the juvenile understands what has transpired and what's going to transpire next. And so once that takes place, then we felt like it was appropriate to bring it to the public's attention. You know, we understand that this has garnered a lot of interest from the public. And when you have a video that goes viral, that's what's going to happen. And so we understand that, and we felt like in the to be transparent with the public, we needed to respond and we needed to indicate to the public what we were doing about it.
So does he have a court date?
I don't know that he has a signed court date yet, but that will be public information.
Is he being held in a juvenile detention center or in the Forsyth County Jail?
I believe that he has bonded out.
How much was his bond?
Do you know what it was set for? I think the bond was cash money, John. Cash money, $20,000. Actually, I'm not sure if it was cash money, but it was a bond, John.
So as far as these charges are concerned with the most recent assault, just help me clear something up.
Sure.
He's being tried as an adult with this case. The other assault, is that being tacked onto that since he's being tried as an adult, or is that just like extra?
So there are two cases
Right.
where he has been indicted for second-degree kidnapping in two separate incidents involving two separate teachers on two separate dates.
What was the date of the first one as opposed to when he turns from 16 to 17?
Well, the first date was February 1st, 2024, and the one that was more recent, where the video went viral, was April the 15th, 2024.
And the other incident happened at Parkland?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to talk about the injuries that teacher received?
That teacher, I don't believe, received any injuries.
Did you find out about that incident that happened before the video, after the video came out, or is this happening now at the same time?
Well, you know, none of these decisions that we make about what cases we send to the grand jury are conducted in a vacuum. Even though you have what, again, amounted to a viral video, you know, whether it's the chief of police and his detectives or it's the sheriff, we get together, we spend time trying to figure out what happened here, and sometimes during the course of that investigation, other matters come up that we feel like needs to be addressed.
Can you confirm the pronunciation of Mr. Hickman's first name?
Aquavis?
Oh, is any disciplinary action being taken against Mr. Hickman from the school's point of view? Has he been expelled?
I would let our superintendent respond to that. That's not my arena. Our world, the three of us up here, our world revolves around the criminal sector, and you know, we feel like we are acting with what is expected and what kind of message we think is important for the community to hear.
So I can imagine that able to assault one teacher in February and then was at school to assault another teacher 2 months later?
I
You
can't,
don't know the reason?
I can't comment on that. But again, I would tell you that I know that after speaking with the superintendent throughout this, that she has been supportive and understands that I've got a job to do. The men standing behind me have jobs to do as well, and she knows this needs to play out in criminal court.
Did the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office respond to the first assault in February?
So the first assault that took place in February was documented. So when you say respond, we have SROs in the school already. So there's an SRO in the school. Anytime there's an incident of that nature, the SRO responds to that incident.
Was Mr. Hickman disciplined on that incident?
Again, as Mr. O'Neill says, again, that's way out of my playing field as to how they do what they do in the school system. All hearts and minds satisfied? Yes, sir.
So I was asked recently about what I thought a proper resolution for this case would be. I can tell you that I am obviously in contact with the victims in this case, and that's something we will discuss. I think it's probably also fair to say that there are folks in the community that have tried to surround themselves around the defendant and are hopeful that perhaps a resolution can be achieved that the victims would feel happy about and that they feel like the defendant deserves. So much more conversations coming on what a proper resolution is. Way too early to tell. But again, I ask that the message be delivered to the public that law enforcement's not going to stand for assaultive behavior, and the district attorney's office certainly is not going to stand for any assaultive behavior on our teachers.
Can I just add one thing?
Please.
I know that, you know, a lot of questions are whirling around in the community as why this, why that. I just want to say that it's irrelevant why, right? At no point do you have the authority or the right to where you can put your hands on someone, regardless of what that person, whatever the case may be. I know people are saying, well, this, that, other, and the question that you asked, Mr. Hinton, to me that's irrelevant. You do not have at no point in time where you can put your hands on someone. That does not exist in this county without consequences. So again, I appreciate you all for being here. Chief, you have anything you want to say? All hearts, minds satisfied. I appreciate you all. You know, the message that we should take back to the community is that we're better than this and we're going to be better as a community. And again, thank you all for coming. As always, I love you all. Have a great weekend. That's yours. Okay. That's yours, man.
Didn't ask this in front of all the others.
My keys.
Since you are a candidate in the Bayford primary, some people may say politics is driving this decision to charge him. You want to respond to that?
Good.
Appreciate you to believe that line of thinking.